Okay, so I thought I'd talk about Counterpoint and Gil Evans. So some of you might be thinking, why would I talk about Counterpoint? And you might be imagining this sort of thing. This is a Bach Sinfonia. But early Counterpoint was actually like this, and had two lines of the same rhythm. And this particular type of counterpoint is called first species counterpoint. There's a whole bunch of species, the second and third, and you can get right into it. And this stuff had very strict intervallic rules. You know, you had to be unisons and fifths and use thirds and sixths intervals, and you couldn't use fourths and tritones, etc. And that's all nice, but there's some parts of counterpoint I really thought were awesome, and that's really the rules around the melodic writing of it. So there would be things in the rules about avoiding waves, melodies that were just waves. You know, there had to be like a climactic point and a sense of resolution, etc. And I thought that stuff sounds good to me. So I came across this phrase from open music theory, and this is really what got me thinking about counterpoint in Gil. Counterpoint is the mediation of two or musical lines into a meaningful and pleasing whole. In counterpoint, we not only write a smooth melody that has its own integrity of shape, variety, and goal-directed motion, but we also write a second melody that contains these traits. Most importantly, we combine these melodies to create a whole texture that is smooth, exhibits variety, and goal-orientated motion. And you'll hear me say goal-orientated motion a few times today. I just like the idea that, yes, the other melody joins in and together they make a harmony. But if you focus on the other melody like it's a melody, or the other part like it's a melody, it can lead you to think about it in a different way. All right, on to Gil. So here's the first 3 bars of Boplicity. And Birth of the Cool was one of the first things I started studying from Gil because the scores became available. Hal Leonard put out the whole score set to Birth of the Cool. And so it was a reliable source of study, basically. So there's a few things that struck me when I saw the score to Boplicity. The harmonic rhythm is very fast, and there's a new chord for each melody note. Obviously, I don't have the chord symbols on here, but you can see that each chord there is different. And the other thing that I noticed, which is what I'm mostly going to talk about today, is this part here at the bottom. And that was the tuba part in this arrangement. And I just noticed how active and melodic it is. Yeah, in case you didn't know, Birth of the Cool uses the instrumentation of trumpet, alto sax, French horn, trombone, baritone sax, tuba, and piano, bass, and drums. So yeah, the tuba's on the bottom in this example. And before I go on, just a few things. So Gil often wrote in 5-part harmony, not always, but often. You know, often there was some sort of doubling as well. But the examples I'm showing you today are just condensed versions of those harmonies. So you're getting the full picture here. It's just an easier way to read it. And the other thing I usually do is I often refer to the bass horn as a bass line. So if you hear me say bass line, don't think about acoustic bass, just think about whatever horn's on the bottom. That's probably not technically correct, but that's just how I've sort of studied it, and it's become a habit for me. So yeah, there's Boplicity. And let's have a listen, eh? So on this next slide, it's the same example of the music, but it's just the trumpet and the tuba part, and I've taken out the inner parts. It just allows us to focus on those melodic aspects more easily. And yeah, notice how melodic that tuba is now. You can see it's pretty active. Yeah, often when I'm working at home, I'll be working with a melody or harmony, and I'll be plucking out that bass line, and often trying to play it with the melody together and just making sure they're making a nice harmonious togetherness, but also that the bass line's interesting. And of course, there's that goal-orientated motion. And that's what I really see here with the tuba. Of course, all the strict intervallic rules just aren't there. Like, there's all matter of intervals between these voices. And obviously, jazz harmony allows us to do that. You know, we can put all sorts of chords between those melodies. But yeah, it's just the principles of the melody writing and the goal-orientated motion that I sort of took to. Here's the example again. Yeah,
Alex, I'm reminded of some years ago I was part of a concert here in New York where it was music from the Claude Thornhill Library, and of course it included a lot of Gil's music. And Mike Christensen was the tuba player, who's a wonderful tuba player. He's played many years in New York, so many different kinds of music. And we were talking after the concert. He said, you know, for him, Gil's tuba parts are the most interesting tuba music he's ever played. And he's played a lot of, symphonic things and wind ensemble and all kinds of things. But he really enjoyed Gil's tuba writing. And I think, when you look at what you're talking about here, but the direction of the line and everything, I can see why he would say that. He's really very melodic.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I mean, that's a great first-hand account, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, in orchestral music, tuba just gets to play a lot of root notes too. So,
right.
Yeah, here you got a lot of action.
Yeah.
Nice, thanks. Yeah, so let's carry on, have a look at Moon Dreams here. Another example from Birth of the Cool. So here's all the parts, and again, the one on the bottom is the tuba. Yeah, nice and active again. Here's the example of just the trumpet and the tuba part shown again. It's much easier to see. And what I really notice here is how much contrary motion there is, which is really strong, especially in the counterpoint. So here we've got the melody going up and the bass down, vice versa here, and same at the end. Melody going up, bass going down. It creates a super strong effect. Yeah, Gil's often got something interesting in there. Like I notice on the beat one, he's got a B flat. The first thing I'd think about putting there is maybe an A or another D. The chord here is some sort of D, or we're in the key of D, and he puts a B flat under. He's so tricky, but it almost makes like the reward of this landing on this next note, which is a higher melody, greater. It's a nice trick. So and you notice also that the same with the Boplicity example, that the bass line is quite low here. Often we voice horns higher and let the acoustic bass take the bass, but he's really adding a melodic part down quite low.